Thanks for joining us today. This presentation is on Mycelium mediated plant electrophysiological communication. And this video specifically regards the experimental setup for testing this Mycelium mediated electrical communication between plants. Thanks for being patient with us while we get everything set up here. And without further ado, let's begin. Now, when we say plant communication, for this experiment, we're going to be using cucumbers. Cucumbers are great because they grow fast and have nice thick stalks. For this part, you're going to need a popsicle stick and an individual cell. We're going to go in with the popsicle stick and begin to gently separate the soil body from the edge of the cell wall. Gently go around, making sure not to damage any roots. Take your time with this part, and eventually begin to pry the soil ball away from the cell wall. After a while, it should break loose, and then it'll come right out. Go on and place this in your individual cell you had ready. We went ahead and sliced a slit down the side because we're going to need to place the roots through that, but more on that later. Next, we're going to want to rinse the roots. When rinsing the roots, you want to use water that's room temperature as not to shock the roots. And you want it to not be running fast. This will help ensure that you don't erode too much of your soil away or damage or shock any of the roots. And it's just best to work with regarding this technique from what I found. So we're going to gently remove it from the individual cell, and you begin to apply water along the bottom of the soil pod. And you're just going to want to gently work that soil away from the root. Keep working it until you begin to free up all those roots and continue to root the soil away, but just along the bottom, and slowly work your way up. Now I fast forwarded this video for the sake of time, but you really want to take your time with this part. This is a critical part of the experimental setup. The root health determines the success of the data and the success of the experiment in part. And so healthy roots mean good data, typically. Now as you can see, you want to start to get these long strands. These are ideal for this type of experimental setup, and you'll see why in just a second. So we'll only need one, and once you have a good one, you can make sure you have it ready to go and have your individual cell pod there, and you can just slide it right back in while leaving the root line on the outside. Tamp it down to make sure it's nice and secure. And there you have it. Now, if you're going to be doing other things or coming back to this, or you need to do another cucumber or another plant per se, you can just wet a paper towel and wrap it around the roots. This will help keep the roots healthy and moist and alive and keep them from getting shocked and maybe dying. And then you can just set those, and that should keep it nice for a while. Yeah, so this experimental setup needs 2 plants. So for us, 2 cucumber plants. And so you'll need to repeat those steps again. Next, we're going to be working with the agar plate. The agar plate has 2 islands of agar on it, with mycelium inoculated, and mycelium bridging those islands. You need to cut 2 holes in this agar plate so that we can slide the roots through. The platform is a plate of styrofoam painted black. It's painted black to create contrast against the white mycelial threads. This helps confirming the mycelium under the microscope. This helps for taking pictures. And as you can see, it's supported along the edges. And this makes it easy to separate the plates, the 2 halves of the plate, when it's time to separate the dish itself and break the bridge to confirm that the signal you're receiving wasn't from some other unknown error or artifact in your data. So we want to line our plate gap right up along that gap in the styrofoam. And once you have it lined up just right, we're going to want to secure that plate to the board. With 2 thin pieces of tape, that's all you need. Just one on each side, and that'll help fix that plate in place while you're working. It'll help it from shaking around and getting off and unaligned, and it'll keep it stable. Next, we're going to want to remove the lid, because now we're going to start placing the roots in. Do this one plant at a time, and make sure you have 3 pieces of tape ready to fix that individual cell pod down to the plate. It's important to note that your roots, once on the agar island, don't go over the island or across the gap, and also that they don't go in between the 2 islands, and just make sure they're on their sides, because they can be long, as you can see, and long enough to even cross the gap on their own. So next we like to take little strips of agar just to keep the roots pressed down. This holds them in place as they tend to shrink or move around a little bit. I believe these strips also help retain a little bit of moisture, which is good for the roots as that's what they need. So once you have these in place, you can then put the lid back on, and the last step is just to put some tape covers over those slits we made in the individual cells. And once you've done that, you're basically done. The last step is just to put a little bit of reinforcing tape, just a little strip, between the 2 individual cells to hold them for transport and just to keep them stable while you're not using them. And now you're ready for testing. Thanks everybody for listening. Have a great day.